Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 9th, 2022 Abington Finance Committee meeting. We are continuing our series of meetings with department heads. This week, we will be meeting. Let me share my screen really quick. Oh, I need sharing presentation. Sharing ability. But we will be meeting with the town accountant, with the Abington CAM committee, and we will be going over town budgets as well, town managers' office budgets. Let me see if I can. Yep, we can share now. So I'm going to share my screen. Hang on one second. Find the right one. There it is. All right. Can everyone see the agenda for tonight's meeting? All right, so our agenda for tonight, we will go through the Abington CAM, then the town accountant, and then the town manager's office, and then the other budgets presented by the town manager. Then we'll go through our normal business of liaison reports, correspondence, and a review of minutes. Our next meeting will be next Wednesday, February 16th. To kick things off, I'm going to remember this week to do roll call attendance for us here on Zoom. Let me just expand my window so I can see everyone. So from the committee, we have myself, Matt Sala. We have Chris Murphy. We have Russ Fuller. We have Daniel Eddy. We have Andrew Leveralt. We have Paul Haggerty. And we have Greg Belazarian. And then for guests tonight, we have Lisa Bezanson from Abington CAM. We have our town accountant, Andrew Nocon. We have our town finance director and treasurer collector, Sonia Hodge. And we have our town manager, Scott Lambiase. One request that I have gotten between last week's meeting and this week's meeting is when you are about to start talking, whether it's to ask a question or to make a comment or something, if you could just sort of announce yourself with your name so it's easier for people to pick up who's talking. That would be great, especially when we're sharing screen. It becomes particularly hard for people to catch who's doing the talking. So if you could try to make a point to do that tonight, I will try to make a point to remember and do it myself and to bring it up for people that don't. So I think we can jump right in. We'll head first to Abington CAM. We have Lisa Bezanson with us. Lisa, thank you for joining us. I will switch over my share. Can everyone see the Abington CAM budget now? Yeah. Excellent. Lisa, how are you? How's Abington CAM doing?
Oh, it's doing great. How are you?
Doing well. And I will disclose right away, one of the high school student workers for Abington CAM as of maybe a month or so ago now is my middle daughter, Rebecca, who's a freshman in high school. So I have vested interest in Abington CAM doing well, if you want to put it that way. But how's everything going? So yeah, that's what I've heard. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. Can I do a little introduction of what the studios are?
Please do. Yes.
So as Matt said, I'm Lisa Bezanson. I'm the president of the board of directors of Abington Community Access and Media Incorporated. That's Abington CAM. It's a private nonprofit 501c3 corporation that is licensed by the town to run the cable access television studios that provides the public education and government channels, the PEG channels. I think the enterprise fund has PEG in the name of it. If it does, that's why. Abington CAM is funded by franchise fees collected by Comcast and Verizon from their Abington cable television subscribers. And we're paid quarterly through the enterprise fund. Abington CAM is not funded through the tax levy.
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa. That's always a good thing to point out is for those who've been following for a while know, but those who are newer to watching any finance committee meetings would not. Abington CAM was not something that used to fall under the budget process for the town. In the last few years, the state has made regulation changes so that the money kind of flows through the town offices to the community access media accounts.
Yes, because we're licensed by the town.
Yep. So
we're not
that's
a town board.
Not a town board, not a town department. Technically, it's a private company, but the money does flow from the cable companies to Abington, the town of Abington, and then from the town of Abington into the accounts for Abington cable access and media.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Matt, do you mind if I just piggyback off that with a question? Andrew Loverall.
Go for it, Andrew.
So that won't, this account won't be appearing on our budget worksheet that we were provided, so we can see sort of year over year increases or decreases or anything like that?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep,
I can't give you that information, though. I do have that.
Yeah, and it is, as Lisa mentioned, it is a private nonprofit company. It is they have essentially total say over what they do with their budget. They just they are very willing to come and talk to us each time about what's going on there and what their budget is. And Lisa and her folks have been doing a good presentation for us for the last 3 years. So
great, thank you.
So Lisa, do you want to kind of give us the rundown of where things stand and then what the budget looks like this year?
Where things stand, well, our health insurance has gone up a little over the last budget because we have 2 full-time employees now. Salaries also have gone up for the same reason. The rent to Abington Public Schools has remained the same at $30,000 a year. Our contract MOU with the school is up for renewal in July, so we don't yet know if that will change, but we're projecting $30,000 just in case. Our interns, last year, the interns did a lot because of COVID, everything was remote. This year, not so much yet, but that is expected to increase. The enterprise fund fee has gone up $500 over last year. Professional fees, which is mostly our accounting firm, is at $6,000. Insurance pretty much remains the same year to year. We have it straightened out now where all of our limits are where they're supposed to be. So it was about $7,400 last year, $7,600 now. Dues, subscriptions, warranties, $9,000. We have equipment that we pay for an annual warranty. Dues and subscriptions are the I can't think of the name. It's the Cable Access Association and a few other things. Repairs and maintenance. We don't have too many repairs. We do have the engineer come in from time to time to troubleshoot issues. Studio supplies, office supplies, things like SD cards, batteries, toner for the printer. We're looking at buying a new printer right now. Website development and maintenance. We have a new website. And I'm actually not sure why it's $1,500, but yeah. So postage, minimal. We don't do too many mailings. Other property related services is our miscellaneous. Our equipment in the studio is about 5 years old now. We got it in 2017 when the school opened. Yep. And so we're looking at possibly having to replace in-house studio equipment for a total of $282,000. The 91,400 town hall AV remodel from retained earnings. That is money that was left over from FY21 that we're looking at remodeling the Cotter room, mostly the Cotter room, with stationary equipment and the other smaller conference rooms with more portable equipment that we can use off-site as well, for a total $373,900.
What is the status of your sort of savings or enterprise account? Because I know we've talked about that in the last couple of years.
Yeah. The enterprise fund balance as of February 4th was $109,722. And that includes the $91,400 in FY21 retained earnings.
Okay.
Lisa,
And go ahead, Russ.
Sorry, Matt. I just was going to ask, how did the expenses and revenue end for 2021, and how is it looking for 2022?
Do you mean the fiscal year? Fiscal year.
Yes. Sorry. Yep.
Fiscal year.
Just for comparison purposes to what we're seeing on the screen, I just want us to be able to compare, please.
Fiscal year 2021, we spent $217,000, which we actually spent more than that, but it was reimbursed through Plymouth County CARES, the COVID funding. So that was for a total $383,000, but that's kind of a one-time thing. It's every 5 to 7 years, most of the studio equipment needs to be replaced. So it'll be a while before those particular pieces of equipment need to be renewed. And then so far this year, I'm sorry, I have it on my other laptop here. So far this year, July through January, we've spent $140,000 almost. So we're on track to spend about the same $220,000 in FY22.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa, I had a question. This is Sonia. The retained earnings, I know Andrew and I had spoken with you a few times. Mm-hmm. So is the plan not to use the $90,000 in fiscal year 22? You'd rather use it in 23?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if we're approved to use it in 22, it would be with a warrant article, and it would have to be spent before June 30th.
That's right.
Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's too short of a time frame for us.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Chris Murphy. Last year, when you showed us numbers, mm-hmm. your surplus was pretty large, mm-hmm. in the millions.
Right.
I forget what it was, but it
was somewhere. Right. I think that's Matt saw again. I think it was somewhere between maybe 900,000 and 1.1 million. I think.
Right.
Yeah. Is it still there, or has it gone down?
Yeah. So that's actually in a bank account that the corporation has had since 2009 when it became a corporation. We have a checking account, 2 CDs, and a money market account that are at about $1,008,000 right now. So that is Comcast and Verizon payments that the corporation received mostly prior to 2019, before the enterprise fund was enacted. And so we still receive money back now that goes back into the checking account. We pay our invoices and then submit them to the town, and the town reimburses us through the enterprise fund. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
It's Matt Saul again. Quick question. I think you mentioned there were 2 full-time employees now.
Yes.
I know one is the director. The other, I don't believe we had 2 full-time employees last year. Who's the second full-time employee?
No, we did not have 2 full-time employees. This is Matt Nelson.
Excellent. What is Matt's position? This is just me being curious because it's good growth for the company. So.
Access Operations Coordinator. He is the second in command because there's only 2 of them.
Yep. We have dealt with Matt on our meetings before, so we know that Matt does a good job.
I'm sorry. He actually started with us in like January or February of 2021. So he's been with us at least a year now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. Does anyone have other questions for Lisa?
Andrew Leveralt, I had a question for either, I don't know if it's Lisa or Scott. I'm just a little, I guess, can you explain more about the interaction between Abington CAM and the town? For example, it seems like they're installing like close to $100,000 worth of, IT hardware in our conference rooms. Like, does that go through our IT department? Do they have sort of control over that project, or who's responsible for the upkeep, or how does that work? It's a little confusing.
They work together on that. This is Scott speaking. Can you guys hear me okay tonight?
Yes, we can hear you very well, Scott. Good.
I went back to the $10.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Right? Yeah. So we work together quite a bit. And I think you all know Kevin Tachi. He works very closely with Wayne over in our IT department before we do anything over there. But their stuff is separate for the most part from our stuff. Their equipment, they handle, maintain, and control their equipment. We are looking to help out and partner with them, though, for a lot of reasons. Obviously, that room is the meeting rooms are not only great because ABCAM can help us with regular meetings and tape them, but when we have to do hybrid meetings, or if we want to be able to have things that a presenter is doing on a screen or something that's also simultaneously shown on ABCAM, we want that ability to do that. We want to upgrade. It hasn't been done in a while, but we want to see things upgraded to a point where we're not behind the 8 ball, where we're comfortable for the next 5 to 10 years or so, or at least 5 years, I would say. I guess that's probably the best we can do with the way technology changes.
Yeah.
But, so that we do have a good, robust system there that we can handle good meetings. We can handle multiple meetings. We can, like I said, have presentations that can be simultaneously shown on TV, and, we can work while we're doing the meeting. So.
Thank you.
Hi, Lisa. Paul Haggerty. Professional fees. What firm do we use? Do they just do tax returns, or they do tax return and audit?
This is for this year. It's DiBiase and Nash, and it will be a financial review every year going forward with the tax returns.
And we've filed all our appropriate tax returns timely?
We have filed all of the Form 990s. Our previous accounting firm did not file the Form PCs, so we're actually I just received some of that today. We have 2019, 20, and 21 that they're working on and should have done in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Is there any impact on the corporation because they didn't file with Mass?
No, there is not. We're a 501c3 corporation, so we don't pay tax, income taxes anyway.
Right.
And I've been in contact with the Attorney General's office, so they are expecting them.
Okay. And then how does the enterprise fund fee work?
That is something for Sonia or Andrew Nocon.
So the enterprise fund fee, that's the transfer out, the indirect and direct cost calculation where we take a percentage of specific town services and budgets. Sorry. So that that all the enterprise funds contribute their share of the town general fund costs to support the organization.
So this is Matt again. The quick version of it, Paul, is the money from the cable companies that's specifically from Abington residents' cable bills. There's a fee on Abington residents' cable and every town's residents' cable bill, but it goes to whatever town it is for cable access. So the fee from Abington residents once a quarter comes in and goes into the enterprise fund for Abington CAM, and then Abington CAM uses it from that fund.
Okay, and that revenue that comes in that's sitting in that account, is that's on the books of the corporation, correct? Not on the towns? Like you're talking about $1 million of reserves, or where does that sit?
So just real quick, the $1 million or approximately $1 million, I think Lisa said $1 million and 8,000.
Right.
That is, I believe, and Lisa can correct me if I'm wrong on this one, that was money that was in Abington CAM's accounts before the enterprise fund was set up.
Yes.
So money because before the enterprise fund was set up, money would go directly from the cable companies to the cable access providers. Abington CAM being the Abington one, without passing through the town and without an enterprise fund. The enterprise fund for Abington CAM is new in the last 2 to 3 years.
2019.
Yep.
And that 282.5, that's the estimated revenue that will come directly to the town for fiscal year 23. And then, like Lisa said, they pay their invoices, then they submit them to us to reimburse them for up to the amount that we receive in revenue.
Yes.
But that $1 million that we're talking about, like reserves, whose books is that sitting on?
On
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
And what type of interest are they earning on that?
We are getting 0.4% interest on the 2 CDs. There is 258,500 in one, 257,500 in the other. So we're getting about $87 a month on each CD. And we have a money market at 0.1% interest that has $300,106 in it. There's 196,000, I'm sorry, 500 in the checking that is not interest bearing.
Sorry, Lisa, what was the percent on the money market?
The money market is
Just
0.1%.
Okay.
So it's about $25 a month for $300,000. We are looking at moving that into, possibly moving it into one or more CDs at 0.45% now. Short-term CDs.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any reason that we don't look at something a bit more lucrative?
Well, actually, yeah, we did look at annuities, which corporations can own annuities and they can be the beneficiary of annuities. but they need a person, at least one or more people to sign for it, which would be the directors of the corporation, just as we're on the checking account. The board discussed it and decided to go with the money market instead. Yeah, the annuities at the time were getting like 2.5% compared to 0.4% in the CD. But that is what the board decided.
And that was Greg Belazarian that asked that question.
Thank you. And is it possible for that money to be in a fund? Can you guys? But yeah, I mean, like, are there restrictions? You said you can do it into annuity, but can you do it into funds? Just because that's still really low.
Yeah.
And to have $1 million,
yeah. So,
and you can make 5% pretty easy.
Yeah, we can. But so the thing about the Abington bank accounts and the annuity that we looked at is that annuities are insured up to $250,000. Abington Bank is insured by the FDIC and the DIF for the total amount we have in the bank, but the annuity was up to $250,000. So we were looking at putting $250,000 into an annuity. It was the only kind of account that my financial advisor found for us that was fully insured.
Are we paying a fee? Are we paying a fee to this financial advisor?
No.
So that would, if there would be a fee being paid to the financial advisor, it would be Abington CAM and not the town that would be paying
Not the town. Nope. This is the money that is currently in Abington CAM's bank accounts, not the town. The town does whatever they do with their enterprise fund. It's totally separate.
And does Abington CAM have any type of investment policy?
Only in that we have 2 CDs and a money market and a checking. Otherwise, there is no other. Do you mean as far
Right,
as
as how they invest how the corporation invests the funds?
No, that was a vote of the board that they preferred the money market over the annuity board of directors.
Again, I don't know the rules and stuff like that, but there are definitely other things that whoever the advisor is should be looking into that can make 5%, which again is not a lot, but it's pretty standard for things that are not risky.
I did look into other parts of them, but the thing was that we wanted to go with something that was fully insured. The annuity was fully insured. And so is the money in the Abington Bank. None of the other investment opportunities were fully insured.
Well, no, you don't have to do it all with one lump sum. So you would split it up, right? You could have 10 different annuities or whatever. I'm just saying. I don't know what the rules are, but
the rule for the annuity is that one annuitant is allowed up to $250,000. So we couldn't do Lisa Bezanson's Abington CAM account and somebody else's Abington CAM account and have it be insured for more than $250,000.
And that's because there are 2 board members.
Right. The entity itself is only insured up to $250,000. No matter who the signator on the annuity, because Abington CAM would be the owner and the beneficiary. That was the $250,000 limit. And so the other, I don't know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head other than Washington Mutual, but if we had a Washington Mutual investment account, it would not be as secure as the annuity, which is insured by a entity similar to FDIC and DIF.
No, I get it. It's a trade-off, right? It's you give up some of the security to make more than $87. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So it's almost not worth it being in that to make the $87. So that's my only point to this, is that if there is something, we could talk to somebody to push the envelope a little bit to say, are we positive there's nothing else we can do to get more? Have, I don't know, split it up a specific
conversation. And so the problem with other forms of investment is market volatility, where we would likely gain more over time. There's a chance that we could also lose money as well. So these CDs and money markets are insured against loss, whereas other investments other than annuities would not be insured against loss.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Lisa. Any other questions for Lisa for Abington CAM?
Sorry, I'm Andrew Leverall. Sonia, I think you explained this, but the enterprise fund fee is essentially like a chargeback that the town assesses for us administering their enterprise fund?
That's right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else? Anyone? All right, looks like we're good. Lisa, thank you again so much for your time. We very much appreciate it. And good luck with all of the stuff that Abington CAM is doing these days.
Thank you. Great stuff.
Definitely appreciate it.
There's one thing I think I want to add for clarity in case there's discussion after I hang up. But so the 282.5, and I do believe Sonia already mentioned this, that is our projected revenue based on quarterly Comcast and Verizon Enterprise Fund, Verizon quarterly payments that we're getting now. That's why we asked for that amount. If we don't ask for the full projected amount, we can't withdraw it. So we don't expect to spend quite that much, although we do have other things we're looking at. But we would like it available in case we do, because once we buy something in this coming fiscal year and we're over whatever the budget total figure is, we can't ask for it in the following fiscal year to be reimbursed.
Good point to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
All right, thank you. I can go now?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I saw Alex hop on there as well. Thanks to Alex for all that he did.
He's not here right now, but thank you.
So,
all right, take care.
All right, thanks, Lisa. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have our new town accountant, Andrew Nocon. Andrew's first year with meeting with the finance committee. He steps in and takes the reins of the accounting department for the town. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Very glad to have you. Here, let me switch the share. Hang on. Does anybody know which page the
looks like 6 starts at 6.
Is that it right there? Town accountant salaries. That's our start right there. All right. Andrew, welcome.
Hello. Can I start with a few words?
Yes, please.
All right. I just wanted to say I'm honored to have been appointed to this position. I've been here since October, and I'm very happy to be here. I have a philosophy of constant improvement, and I'm always working to make things better. And I hope to contribute as much as I can to the town during my time here. One of the things I did is rewrite the mission statement that appears on the website. So I'd like to read that now. The mission of the accounting department is to facilitate town operations, through comprehensive record keeping, perceptive financial oversight, and insightful financial reporting. The department is responsible for the accounts payable function of the town and strives to ensure compliance with all applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations. The department also protects the town's financial interests by identifying and eliminating potential fraud or misuse of town resources.
Excellent.
I'd also like to thank my staff for all the hard work that they do. Over the last fiscal year, we've made 10,000 purchases, a rate of about 200 per week, and serviced over 1,400 unique vendors throughout the year. We started recently doing requisitions in Beta, our accounting system, and we're taking efforts to ensure that we're following state procurement laws. This year for 1099s, we took a couple steps towards filing electronically. We're doing it electronically with the state and hope to get that done with the IRS next year. This year is still paper, but we'll work on that. We've also been building up the town's financial reporting capabilities. The tax rate, balance sheet, Schedule A, all the statutory reporting was done in a more timely manner this year, and I've tried to automate that with my technical background. I'm sure you've also seen the new expenditure and revenue reports. And in the town report, there'll be a couple new exhibits to better comply with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 61. There's some prescribed reports that weren't being done before. That's all I have for updates. The budget that you have before you is $20K higher than last year, and that's primarily driven by the new part-time payroll clerk. Since Sonia's taken over the finance director position, we're trying to, help carry the workload in town hall. Okay. Any questions?
Let's see.
I will note before we move past the salaries that the bookkeeper, this has changed slightly now that we have a new clerical union contract. So I've updated that. It's a slight jump, but not drastic. So just know that if you compare this to the budget reports that I sent out, it will be a slight difference, and that's why, and it's contractually required.
You just dropped a little bit of news on us. We have a new contract with the clerical union.
Yeah, it was approved in January, I think. Yeah, we do. All the other contracts are up to, besides library, that one's already been settled.
Okay.
Yep.
I think at last note, we didn't have any signed, so that's good to hear.
Andrew, just a quick question, Paul Haggerty. On the payroll clerk position, is it a weekly payroll that we have in town?
The town is weekly and the schools are bi-weekly, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. And is payroll done in-house?
So payroll, this is Sonia, payroll is done partially in-house, and we also have a payroll company that we work with. We use customized data services in Whitman. So our payroll person, who is the assistant treasurer collector right now, is spending at least half of her time on payroll duties, and she enters all of the timesheets. She verifies everything against contracts and payroll authorization forms. She gets everything entered. She compares timesheets and dollar amounts and hours to make sure everything lines up. She works with the departments if there are any discrepancies. And then once everything gets verified the way it needs to be done, then we send the files off to our payroll company and they print and prepare the checks for us. They also do our tax filings and payments.
Where does that cost show up in this budget?
Right now, that's in my treasurer collector budget as part of my purchase services.
And how much are we spending annually for that service?
Give me just a second and I will find out.
Have we ever thought about or did a cost comparison between in-house payroll and outsourcing it?
Not since I've been here. We have excellent customer service with customized data systems.
Sonia,
it's-
is this it on the screen? Sorry to interrupt. Purchase services in the treasurer budget.
Yes, but there's more in that than just payroll.
Right.
So I'm pulling up my desktop to see. I've got my figures.
That's right. If you want to keep going, I don't want to hold us up for that.
Andrew Leverell, can I just follow up on Paul's question? So is it an actual like physical document timesheet that people are completing? Good night, buddy.
Some departments are doing electronic timesheets. The bigger departments definitely are, but most other people are doing paper. Either way, we need to print them so that we can have them available for backup.
And then they're actually cutting checks of the individuals. They're not doing like a direct deposit or anything.
Well, it's up to the employee how they want to receive their check. So most people do get it direct deposited.
Gotcha.
But then even with the direct deposit, it's up to them if they want a paper stub or they want it emailed to them. So obviously, if they want their paper stub, then that's an expense as well. We have budgeted $25,500 for our payroll company for fiscal year 23. And they also help us with our Affordable Care Act reporting. They do our W-2s. They provide a huge service to the town.
Thank you.
All right, other questions before we move past salary? All right. Andrew, back to you.
If you want to go down the list, that COVID-19 line item used to flow in the accountant's budget, but it's not going to be there next year. Auditing and accounting, that's primarily for the OPEB valuation and other projects. A couple of years ago, when we transitioned from the old accounting system to VADAR, there was a scanning project done. The official annual audit is paid out of the town manager's budget, and it's about $50,000 a year.
So how does that work? We're budgeting $52,000 for the financial statement audit, and this is for what?
This is for the OPEB valuation. I think it's done every 2 years.
Okay. And how much work is involved in that when you consider we got $274,000 on a $81 million liability? So is that what they're calculating, that net liability?
Correct, yes.
And what is that, Powers and Sullivan or somebody else?
No, we use Odyssey Advisors. They're the actuary that does that.
So if we budget 12,000 last year, it's 5,000 this year. So we do it every 2 years. What do we get for the $5,000 this year?
Well, we actually split the cost over the 2 years so that it's even.
But they only do it every 2 years, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The valuation.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, now moving on. So education and training, I think I that should be cut a little bit, but that pays for classes and certifications that my staff and I go to throughout the year. Office supplies are office supplies, paper, folders, pens.
What did we do in, sorry, this is Matt. What did we do in FY21 that we spent so much money on office supplies?
Not sure here. Let me take a quick look at the details. A lot of printing and a lot of Mason invoices, WB Mason invoices.
Okay. I know it's not necessarily a fair question to ask the guy who's been here for 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of postage.
What we did 2 fiscal years ago, but all right. Travel.
Travel is for attending classes that are offsite. The MMAAA conference is in Amherst, and there's another one down at the Cape. We've been lucky over the past couple of years since they've been remote, so there's not really any travel involved with that. But as things open back up, that we'll need that money. And dues and fees, those are my staff and I, we are members of a variety of different accounting organizations, and those pay for the membership dues every year.
Nice. Now, is that your only budget, or do you have other budgets in here?
That's the only one.
Okay. Got confusing over the last few years because Sue was presenting everything, so it was hard to remember if she was just doing the town accountant budget for the town accountant or if anything else was attached. So
it's understandable.
Does anyone have questions for Andrew on his budget or any other points here? Not seeing anybody putting their hands up. So Andrew, we very much appreciate your time. It's definitely sounds like you're off to a really good start.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you for the updated format of a lot of the support we've been getting.
We definitely appreciate that.
Useful. Yeah, reporting is my specialty, so I'm always happy to help.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Well, Andrew's going to jump into his Arpa presentation now.
Oh, okay. Yep, that's right. I forgot that there was.
Don't let him go.
We were going to have that. Can't leave. Can't leave yet.
All right. Let's see. I got to share my screen.
All right. Hold on. I'll stop my share.
All right. Can you all see that?
Yep. CARES and ARPA overview.
All right. All right. So this is just a brief summary of both CARES and ARPA. CARES stands for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. It was signed by President Trump in March of 2020, and it represents about $2.2 trillion in stimulus. What that means for Abington is that we got about $2.7 million from the federal government, and it was administered by Plymouth County instead of given to us directly. How it works is that there's 6 allowable categories of expenses. I'll get into the details a little bit later, but for now, I'll just read them off. The allowable categories are medical expenses, public health expenses, payroll expenses, compliance, economic support, and other related expenses. Everything is handled on a reimbursement basis. So the county holds the money, and basically we submit all the expenses and our documentation to them. That involves sending them copies of the invoices, warrants, check numbers, and they also require a brief written justification of how it relates to the pandemic. The county then reviews the information and reimburses us. The deadline was the end of last year, so December 31st, 2021. All expenses needed to have been incurred and So how did we do? Of the 2.7 million that we had available, we received about 2.6 million of it so far to date. That's 98% of our share. As of today, there's about 44K outstanding. We've submitted 40,000 in invoices to them that they're still looking at, and we left about 4K on the table. As far as the spending breakouts go, there's a lovely pie chart that you can adore. The biggest category by far was compliance, and that those costs help implement COVID protocols in the town and at the schools. Some of the sample expenses that we have in here are computers, PPE, ventilation, cleaning, disinfecting, remote learning supplies and equipment, and the town's share for costs at South Shore Votech. The next largest category was public health. Those expenses included testings, vaccines, and other related expenditures like PPE and medical waste disposal. There was also a vehicle purchase for the fire department and ambulance supplies. The third largest category was payroll expenses. That paid for furloughs, overtime, temporary employees, and other COVID-related work. Next on the list is other, that paid mostly for enhancements at AdCam that Lisa mentioned earlier, a couple office sundries, and some Meals on Wheels expenses. The last two categories at 3% each were medical, so that's for medical claims, and there was a vehicle purchase for the Board of Health, and economic support, that was primarily Meals on Wheels. Any questions on CARES?
Was that vehicle bought for the Board of Health or the Health Department?
The Health Department.
Okay. Yeah. I figured. So how did so where it was on a reimbursement basis, how did the town float the money when we kind of went into that year with a balanced budget?
I believe we paid for it out of general fund money and then reclassed it as the reimbursements came in.
Okay. And what was the average, or do you have an idea what the average turnaround time was between when you made a claim and when you got reimbursed?
I don't have that information readily available.
Do you have a feeling, Scott?
It depended. We put it in several batches, but it was fairly quick. In the beginning, it was sort of slow, and we let things collect for a while we tried to feel out how the system was going to work. But Plymouth County had a really good system. They had, an auditing firm or an accounting firm that was sort of making sure that everything was in compliance. We actually put in for pre-approval for things like the vehicle to make sure that we would be reimbursed for it before doing it. And actually most things, if there was any concern, we would put in for pre-approval. But I don't think there might have been very little that got kicked back that for some reason or another didn't get covered, and it really needed just more justification on why we were using it or why we felt it fit into the categories. But I want to say we got the checks came fairly readily, but I'm trying to think, Andrew, did we get the last check maybe a month ago or 2 weeks ago?
Is it a month or two ago? I know I submitted one, a small batch in November, and I just heard about it a couple weeks ago. So it's toward the end of the program, so they must be inundated with requests. I'm not sure that's a good yardstick.
No, that's fair. And I might have missed it, but how did we get the truck for the fire department to fall under this?
It was the same thing. It was in the beginning. We went through and pre-approved it and asked them. It was specifically that we needed a vehicle that we felt that they could respond to that was just for COVID. We didn't really know, in the very early days of this, we didn't know just what kind of exposure we would be running into if they had an emergency. they were also using it. They were very helpful when we were setting up our, initial vaccinations and, there was a lot of things that were coming in. So yeah, we again pre-approved that one. And ultimately it helped quite a bit, both of them, having both of those vehicles.
Okay. And is this, and if I missed it, sorry, but is this slide deck available to us, or these slides available to us? Like,
Yeah,
can it be emailed, or is it kind of,
I can email it to you, and
Okay.
I'll also put it on the website.
Okay, great.
Yeah, my plan would be to probably share this after tonight's meeting, probably on Facebook, and as Andrew said, we'll have it on the website also.
Yeah, if it's on the website, you don't have to email it to me. I didn't know you're going to post it up there. That's fine.
Can I just try to understand though, if you're going to post that tonight or tomorrow, whenever, it says Town of Abington Finance Committee, does that imply that this is a document of Finance Committee? Or should we just distinguish that it's presented to the Finance Committee? Because this isn't our document. Somebody, if I was looking at that, would consider this might be the Finance Committee's document.
Right. I can change that.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I can be off, Matt. Like if you, I don't want to try to, but I just don't want to give the impression that this is our document.
Nope. I agree with you there, Paul. It makes sense to label it.
I would suggest that maybe we label it presented to the Finance Committee on August 9th.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
February.
Yeah.
It's not August.
Yeah.
It would be a lot warmer if it was August. I would be much happier.
I got my countdown calendar. I got my
Any other questions on CARES before we move on to ARPA?
Looks like we're good.
All right. So Tarpa is another federal stimulus program. This one was signed in March of 2021, and it's about 1.9 trillion in stimulus. As far as Abington's share, it's about 5 million total from the federal government, and this one's split up. We're getting 1.7 million to the state, 50% of which has been received already. And then the rest of it is being handled through Plymouth County, again, on another reimbursement basis. As far as deadlines go, we have until December 31st, 2024 to assign the money to a specific project or purpose.
And what is, oh, sorry, this is out of Joe Rojas. What is ARPA stand for?
It stands for the American Rescue Plan Act.
And was that targeted similar to the CARES specifically for COVID, or just for alleviating any economic issues that were caused by the policies?
Right. The next slide has the allowable categories that should shed some light on that question.
Okay, thank you.
There are 4 allowable categories for expenses. The first is premium pay, and that's for essential and frontline workers. We also have public health and economic impacts. So that includes testing, clinics, and mitigation. It also includes aid for local businesses and disproportionately affected communities. The third allowable category is revenue replacement. This is intended to offset public sector revenue lost because of the pandemic. The way this works is we can do a calculation, or we're allowed to take a standard claim of up to 10 million, which is basically our entire allowance. We can use this for most government services, but we can't use it for pension payments, or we can't put it in reserves either. The last category is water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure.
So sorry, I meant to ask on the previous slide too. So the 1.7 from the state, that was not reimbursable. It was just given to the town directly. Or, okay.
Right. We still have to use that. We still must spend it on one of these 4 categories, but it's under our custody now.
Okay. And so that deadline means that we can use some of that money in 2024 for things that fall into this category. We don't have to use it now, or it can be used at the last minute, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And so Well, do you have, I don't want to jump the slide, but do you have a slide showing how we intend to use it in these 4 buckets?
Yes, I do, in fact.
All right.
We've actually started spending some of this money. We recently bought a street sweeper for about $250K. We spent some money to help update the website, and we're using Zen City, which is community engagement software. There was some guardrail work done over at Shaw Street, and there's police cruisers. There's a pending purchase of about 3 for, I think it's about $150K. As far as other potential uses, we're thinking about roadwork, playgrounds, and beautification. We're also trying to catch up with other capital needs. Last year we had no free cash, so there's not much capital spending going on then. Right now we're looking at a new bucket truck, which is about $200,000. We're also looking at PFAS mitigation over at the waterworks. There's a pilot program that's going to cost about $500K, and we can use money for that.
So what we're planning on, does that get us to the 5 million, or I wouldn't think so, right?
No, not yet.
Okay.
It's still very much up in the air.
We do have a commitment right now with Abington Joint Waterworks that we will be, I think we're putting up $500,000 to get started on the PFAS remediation projects.
And I'm assuming that's matched by Rockland as well.
Correct.
And does that get them what they need to make a dent?
It gets us what we need to get the project started. Most of it will be done through borrowing. It's going to be a very expensive project. I think we had the water department on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the overall number was.
20 million.
Yeah, I was going to say somewhere.
Yeah,
We
our
reached doing
article
12,
will be,
right?
I thought it was. I was going to say I thought 12, but
Yeah, that does sound.
our article will be 13 million.
okay.
Mhm.
Lucky.
With like from Rockland.
So this will help get started. There's things that they have to do in the interim, engineering and things like that before we get the grants. But we want to. He just wants to get this ball rolling.
Okay.
The other things is I'll be meeting in the next week or so with department heads and some of the committees and trying to find out what other needs are, what things that we think of. We know that we could always use money into the roadways all the time. We've had the presentation from John Stone last year and again this year, on what the ratings are and how hard it would be to catch up to the amount of roadwork that we need to do. So that's always an easy place to put this. Putting it back into the communities and some of the downtown areas, brightening them up would be helpful and nice. And I think an opportunity to show people that, some of the things that we can do. But there's other things, and it's a long program. So it's not like we're not looking to spend the 5 million right away. We want to, take our time, do it right. There's a lot of this is being funneled our way through Plymouth County also, who may have some stricter rules on how we use it as opposed to the rules on the money that was given directly to us, which could be very easily put into the revenue replacement bucket, which means it's basically whatever, we feel that would be appropriate to use it for. So like I said, it's not something that we want to rush into. We're awaiting currently working with the Collins Center, so we're sort of awaiting their first draft of some recommendations on the immediate capital plan and then a long-term capital plan, and that'll come with some funding recommendations. And I think when we have that, and then we look at some of the other things that and some of the other funds that we have that Andrew will mention, then we can put together a much better plan. And it doesn't have to be, I think we need to deal with immediate things like we did with the street sweeper and the cruises because we didn't have money to buy them. And Somehow the bucket truck had just died the other day. So I've got a bid going out, an RFP going out for a used one. If that doesn't pan out, we're going to have to buy a new one. Before I do that, I'll meet with this committee and meet with the selectmen. But, other than that, we're, in the PFAS issue, we want to take our time and be thoughtful on how we do this.
Yeah, because some of these projects can take a while, right? So you kind of answered my question, but what my thought is that, those years are going to go by quick, and it would be, I'm not really a big fan of government spending in general, but if they give us free money, it'd be good to use it rather than burning the taxpayers to do these things.
Yeah,
I guess it already did, but so on the first I wanted to apologize to the group. I haven't been here for a few weeks. Work's just been crazy, so I know this question's probably been answered. But on the PFABs, have they put a stake in the ground as to when it will be addressed? 2 years, 3 years, 6 months, a year?
So I guess I would recommend that you watch that.
Okay, I will.
Joe does give a really good update on it. There is stuff that's going on. So he does have temporary filter systems in there. They're expensive to operate, but for the most part, they have it under control now. It's just they need the long-term solution. They're attacking and looking for every grant opportunity that they can find, and will continue to do so. They're going after zero interest money if they can, and things like that. So, but right now they're still more in the development stage. The temp filters are on there. They're monitoring it constantly, but I think it's more of a couple of years before we have the permanent solution in there.
Okay, yeah, I'll go back and watch. Thank you.
Yeah, Joe, there was a very long discussion on that when we had the water department in. So there's a lot of information in our.
Okay. Yeah, because I've watched a few of the Board of Health meetings, and I didn't know about PFABs. I didn't know that what they were and the danger behind them. So once I did learn, I kind of got a little more concerned. But yeah, I'll go back and watch that.
And it is important, and I think you'll hear Joe say it, is for the most part, Abington has been staying not only under the federal, well under the federal limit, but under the state limit. But because one of the joint wells, and it's the well that mostly feeds Rockland, continues to spike off and on, whenever that spikes, they have to notify the whole water district, which means so they have to notify both Abington and Rockland. But for the most part, we've been in, Abington's been in very good shape, and they're doing a good job keeping it that way.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that, we were below the state level, but then that level dropped. So why, what did they learn now that said, hey, that really should be lower?
Yeah, and it to kind of give a very quick summary of it, the EPA level is what we were like. The state was previously requiring us to be at the EPA level, and the state recently changed. The EPA level did not change. The state level changed to be, I think it's somewhere around,
I think
like it's 0.2 or something like that. And there is 0.8. I think the EPA level is like 0.7 or something to that effect. So it's significantly lower than what the EPA level is. Without the EPA level changing, there wasn't a lot of information as to why they dropped the number to the level that the state dropped it to. But we're still well below the EPA level, and like Scott said, Abington's water is very consistently below the state level. There's the one well that's mostly Rockland that keeps having occasional spikes, but overall the level for both towns has been pretty low. So.
Okay, yeah, sorry for dragging that.
It's good.
I'll go back and watch.
Good information.
I really should have had that. So, okay.
But it's like was mentioned, most of the work that they've been doing on that has been of the more sort of stopgap and temporary type of work, which is why there's still a lot of cost and a lot of need to upgrade the facilities to make that more permanent. which is where this comes in and where the long-term borrowing will come in.
This is Chris.
Hey,
You
Chris.
mentioned the street sweeper. And I think I remember that we need to buy the street sweeper because of some regulation, right? Or
MS4. Yeah.
The stormwater.
Stormwater.
That's why it's an emergency. Okay. I just wanted everyone to know that so that nobody's wondering why are we buying a street sweeper.
Yeah, no, the regulation was that we have to sweep every street in town twice a year under the new regulation. And failure to comply with that regulation could lead up to fines that were up to $3,000 a day. And the old street sweeper died, gone, kaputzi.
All right. Other questions before we allow Andrew to move on? Looks like we're good. Andrew?
That's it.
Road work.
Actually, the last slide. So
good slide. We
any other
definitely
questions?
definitely haven't had any so far. So I think that we have exhausted our questions on this from the looks of it.
All right. I'll get that footer changed and then I'll upload this to the website tomorrow.
That'll be great. This is a very good presentation. Definitely appreciate it. All right. Anything else for cures and ARPA? See a lot of heads shaking from my committee. Andrew, nothing else from you?
That's it.
All right. I think we're gonna parole you then. Definitely appreciate your time and the work that you've put in so far.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming and meeting with us.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, and that turns things over to Sonia and Scott. Town manager's budget. Let me get my chair back up.
I think this is one of the first times I've presented it to you also. I'm pretty sure Sue took care of this one.
Yeah, I think Sue took care of this last year. So let's see, what page? Does anyone know? There we go, town manager. Two or is it one? Are we starting on one? Now we're, yep, there we go. So let's start right out with the question that gets asked, and we have to make the clarification on. The selectmen do not get salaries. The selectmen salaries is the town manager and town manager's office.
Correct.
Employees and staffing.
The selectmen receive absolutely zero compensation, just like the finance committee receives zero compensation for all the hard work that you guys do. So what you see there, town manager, contractual obligation, the HR support, that is money that is stipended to Leanne's office or to Leanne Adams for assisting with human resource functions. As you know, we don't have a human resource office or manager. Leanne helps us with, currently she's working with us to putting together the personnel policies that we're working on, that we've given a draft to the selectmen, maintaining job descriptions, updating job descriptions. She helps us onboard new employees, put them through the query process and things like that. You see there's an administrative assistant that was transferred, money that had been transferred over through the zoning board. It was the administrative zoning and then the conservation zoning. We took both of those functions, put them into one person. At one point, Nancy had been doing all of that, plus executive secretary work. So we brought in another person who does those functions and is doing the website and social media coordination. Right now, we're pretty close to a complete upgrade of the website, web pages. I know that you've worked with Tony on that on your page and some of the things that we're doing. So it's a work in progress, but we're getting really close to sort of that final product. We'll be rolling that out and showing it and previewing it pretty soon.
Excellent.
One of the big things that we did this year with Tony that was really helpful is putting together the town meeting web page and sort of throwing a lot of information at her at once to sort of create that page. And after and actually, within the next week or two, there'll be even more information that gets thrown at her. But it's a great spot for everybody to just sort of find anything and everything related to town meeting, whether it's the budgets or warrant articles or just what town meeting is all about. And there's a section in there just on a glossary of terms, so to help people get an idea of what we're talking about. Okay, as we go down the list, we have the Arc of the South Shore. I know that we had carried that in the budget the last couple of years, but nobody has reached out to us over the last couple of years for that money. And
yeah, we had talked about last year how we continued it because we assumed that they would still want it, but that they had not reached out to us last year. So that's interesting.
So I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know if that's a COVID related issue or if that was maybe the organization is just no longer doing anything in Abington. Perhaps, I'm not really sure. So for now, I'd like to hold on to it and maybe we'll adjust it. I'll try and see if I can figure out how to reach out to them. I'll talk to maybe Sean can help give me some direction on that or someone.
Yep.
Health imperatives, I believe that's sort of the same sort of thing that, they think that was just something that had been carried for years, but for whether it was COVID related or not, they just sort of fell off and we hadn't heard from them in the last 2 years. Landfill monitoring, that has gone up. Not only are they doing this is an engineering firm that monitors and checks the gases and water flows over at our landfill, but at the same time, they're also working with us. This includes MS4 permitting and help with that. So that's why that went up. That's the auditing and accounting budget, the $52,000. That's what Andrew had mentioned earlier that we pay for our auditors. I know that we have talked. I think we have one more year on that contract, but I know we've talked about putting a group together, and Paul's offered to help, and I believe Chris. Yeah. So we, our intention is to put an RFP together and just see what else is out there for that. Advertising budget, flat, postage flat. Other purchase services, there wasn't much use for it or need for it. A lot of that is reimbursements on things, my phone, mileage if I'm going to meetings back and forth, things that we just haven't been doing. I do expect that we will be using some of that though, now that the different meetings and different organizations that I'm associated with are back to having in-person meetings. Office supplies, basically flat. Travel budget, again, same thing. I didn't attend any major things. The MMA hasn't happened. The ICMA hasn't happened, but those things should be back up and live again. So we hope to attend. and dues and fees. But that includes, as we said, the Mass Municipal Association, Mass Municipal Managers Association, the ICMA. Does also include the Southeast Regional Consortium group or whatever. We're one of the a buying group. We pay into that every year, and we put out bids for contracts like the asphalt contracts or drug screening contracts and paper contracts, different things like that we do large scale bids on. That's it on that one.
All right, where to next?
Let's see.
Finance Committee, there's our whopping salaries of $2,600. I assume that's recording secretary.
Yes. That's your recording secretary. I'm assuming your expense budget is to cover the Mass Municipal Finance Committee Association, or whatever it's called, that you're members of.
That sounds right.
And I highly recommend we keep that.
Yes.
Let's see, next page, page 5 has reserve fund budget.
Yep.
Looks pretty standard, 50,000.
Yep.
And then I'm assuming
for those who are newer on the committee, the Finance Committee Reserve Fund is something where we put usually we put about 50,000 into that each year, so that if emergencies come up, the finance people can go to the people being departments within the town can come to the Finance Committee and ask for money out of the reserve fund for things like, for example, a few years back, the Windows 95 HVAC system that the library was running on crapped out, and the system needed to be replaced, and it was not in their budget. They came to us to request the money to replace that system later in the year, so that they didn't have to wait until the next town meeting to have heat. And there's a whole process. They bring the request forth to the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee either approves or denies the request to transfer money from the reserve fund to pay for whatever it is that is being requested. So we as the Finance Committee have say over what happens with the money that is in the reserve fund. And 2 years ago, as we were really just getting started in the COVID pandemic, we put a heavier chunk of money. I'm not sure why it lists as zero allocated there. I think we had closer to 200,000 in the reserve fund. We had put money in stabilization so that we could access as we headed into it if we needed to go to a town meeting, but we also had money in the reserve fund so that we could access for any immediate needs that were unknown at the time that we were actually passing the budget, that things like the CARES Act ended up being put in place to take care of, and we didn't end up having to use any of the reserve fund money that we set aside for it. But that's the type of thing that we were looking for with the reserve fund.
Matt, Paul Haggerty, on the reserve fund, is this documented in some type of a policy? Like how this is supposed to work?
Scott, do you know about that? Do we have that somewhere in the town?
I don't know if it's in our
charter,
financial policy or the charter. I'll look it up. I don't know if I have it in like the draft financial policy.
Yeah, I'm assuming that we do, because there are very specific processes. There's a specific form that gets used that that gets brought to us with exact amounts of what money is going to be spent, the specific purpose it's being spent for. We vote on it and we list the vote and sign the document. So I believe that there is, but I don't know off the top of my head.
I'll try and dig it up and see if I can find something. And if not, we'll put it in with the financial policies.
There's a Juro pass. So is that number just is that reserve number just like how do we come to the conclusion that it should be $50,000?
That's a good question that I don't really know the answer for. It's been either 50,000 or around 50,000, I think, the entire time I've been on the committee.
So it's possible that the numbers for 2019 is wrong.
I believe the number for I believe that the numbers for before 2022 are wrong.
Yeah, I know we definitely had 180 last year. Right?
Yeah, so what happens is when the reserve fund is used, budget transfers are made. So it reduces the reserve fund budget to increase a budget in a different line item. So it reduces it. So when you see in 21 that it's 0, it means that the full reserve fund was used. In 2020, in 2019, it wasn't used completely, but obviously mostly used in 19.
And then in 2021, we used
it was actually 149 in 21.
But it says 0 because it was transferred.
Yep,
Yeah.
The full amount was used.
Did we put it into stabilization, or did we use it at the end of the year when we had that we needed money for help?
I think it was that.
I think it was used as a transfer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm assuming if you get to the end of the year and you just don't use it, it becomes a part of the transfer for something else.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
But again, that was a process at the end that we did a whole list of transfers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next budget is town office buildings, and that's page 24.
Trying to manage being able to see everyone and see the. There we go. Is that the right one?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so salaries at the top, that is our custodians. They take care of town hall and they take care of the library. Let's see. Electricity, sure, it's going to go up. I'm not sure why the number is the number for the fuel oil budget. Sonia, do you have any clue on that one? It seems, I think we'll talk, and I'll talk with, I don't know if Wayne would have an idea, but it seems to be kind of funny how it's jumped over the years. And I think it might be because we were adding, or I don't know if we were combining fuel oil budgets with other buildings, or not really sure. So
I'm not sure. I did ask Wayne about these, and he said that he doesn't see any of these invoices, so he wasn't sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Building repair and maintenance. Well, you know, it's an old building, things are breaking down. We did a study last year, or we had a company come in, and we have put some numbers on stuff. I think you remember we were going to do an article last year for, I don't know, maybe $800,000, but we ended up not doing it. We did appropriate money for the engineering firm to come in, and they took a look at the roof, the windows, the doors, the brickwork, They have a whole sort of list of things that can be done and should be done. I don't think that it's something that we'd want to take on all at once. So it may be that, we just want to sort of budget incrementally and take care of it until it's time to do the roof. And then obviously the roof will be, probably similar to the library project, where it'll be close to $1 million roof. But that number I probably can refine a bit too. I'm not really sure why we have it that high. I'm going to look at, and actually what I'll do is I think when we do have our capital together, we can bring that list of stuff that I got for the town hall.
Yep.
But some of the other things that have gone, I mean, we definitely do have some maintenance issues there that, Wayne's been really good about keeping up on, and some of them are, the doors, the ADA doors, and keeping them operable. The bathrooms and the plumbing systems have been a bit erratic, I guess, since day one. I think we talked recently, we knew we had to do an emergency repair. It was a lot less than we thought it was, but we're not sure if it's going to be a permanent repair. We may end up having to actually dig up the line that leaves the building, the sewer line that leaves the buildings, because there may be a problem with it somewhere in the middle of the lobby. So if that hasn't been abated, then that's going to be something that we'll have to deal with. But again, like I said, I think we can refine that number a lot better than that.
I was going to say, it doesn't look like we spend anywhere near that amount.
No.
So.
No, I'm not sure why we plugged it in at that amount either. So I'm not sure if there was something that we talked about or that came to our attention. I know I'm not really. Yeah, the first and second floor copier budget, that's contractual. There's multiple copiers. The other property related services, I can't remember. I asked what that was. I asked Nancy, she told me. Well, I think it's other things that are non-custodial and cleaning, like if we have to have some work done outside or windows cleaned or things like that. Let's see, custodial supplies. Again, that number probably can be refined. I don't think we've gone over 5,000 since 2020. I think that there was probably, there's some things that we'll see use of electricity and even the use of fuel oil at some point in the past when, we were using less of everything, or some of the custodial supplies probably were covered under CARES Act or something to that effect. So there may have been a reduction, but again, I don't know that we need that kind of money on that one either.
Yep.
Let's see. That's it for that page. I also pulled out page 25, the next page.
Yep.
It's town report.
Town reports. Looks like we've been overspending that one for the last several years.
Yeah, it looks like we overspend on the postal budget, which is probably hard to predict. And then the printing budget, we've been underspending.
Yep.
And again, I seem to think that I have 2 or 3 extra boxes every past couple of years in my office. So maybe we can work on that with the overspending of the
yep.
the printing pot. Then the other budget, liability insurance, is page 88.
Right.
We're currently in the process of getting new quotes on that. We're currently with Hub Biz, and we're pricing it out with Maya, and there was one other company that we were reaching out to. I can't remember the name. So we're looking to get update. We actually did that with them last year too. as we, and they drop their rates a tiny bit. So we'll see how it goes. I do kind of like the idea of us, if we switch over to Maya on our health insurance. They do offer quite a host of amenities if you're with them, and they offer quite a bit with their liability, workers' comp, and those insurances. Things like they offer up training, they offer up grant programs, they offer up, they comes with an EAP. There's just quite a lot of services that they do that are very helpful. So we'll see where that goes. Like I said, we're looking to get prices on that, but that right now is our best guess is the $9.50.
And Scott, Paul Haggerty, we don't have any cyber insurance, correct?
There is a bit of cyber insurance with that, because I know I'll find out, because I know that Tony's getting all the information together for me for Maya, exactly what the cyber is.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's not. I can almost guarantee it's not whatever you want it to be, but I do understand the need for, and we're going to have that conversation when we, with Maya, with BizHub, that we want to make sure that we're very well protected. It's getting every day you turn on the news, it gets a little scarier. So I don't disagree with you.
Sorry, Scott, on the liability insurance, Andrew Leverell. So this is to cover, I'm assuming, damage to town property, town buildings, things like that.
Yeah, this has it's pretty much everything in there is, our vehicles are covered under, and obviously if something happens to anybody, I think this would be, and Sonia, I think this is the whole it's not the workers' comp, but it is everything else is in this.
I think it is. I think it does include.
Oh, I think the comp is in here too. So it's the fidelity, the workers' comp, all liability, for all the vehicles, like I said, and then obviously the umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual physical, like town hall, the library, the police station. Okay, gotcha.
Yep,
okay,
all the buildings. Cool. The school buildings are all in here also.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Now, I think the last one is page 12, which is our legal retainer.
There we go. Page 12, yep.
So between this year and next year, and I don't know whether we'll finish it this year, but we're in negotiations with almost every, with police, with fire, with DPW. We're going through a process of, there's a lot of old contractual agreements that are more like piles of MOUs as opposed to one clear cohesive document. So as we negotiate and come up with new agreements, we're sort of cleaning everything up and making them into one usable document that everybody can understand, it's almost like starting from scratch. The other thing is we're working to put together a whole new set of policies. Like I said, we have the draft policies that we've started now, but we have to we have to bargain each one of those as we go through with the unions and then adopt them. So there's a process there. We want to do with them, we want to create a whole new set of, there's no job descriptions for everybody. So we want to make sure we have that. So there's a lot of work that I'm doing with the Labor Council on that. The upside to it though, as far as non-labor council is, knock on wood, that, we've been pretty lucky. We've had, very few issues. We don't have any big lawsuits out there right now. So everything's kind of status quo, and I hope it remains that way.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if there's any other miscellaneous ones that I'm missing.
Trying to think of past years.
There's an ADA committee that we throw $150 at on page 27. And I highly recommend that we continue that, where we should have it's the American with Disabilities Act Committee.
The page before is North River Collaborative. I don't know that we talked about that one with the school department. I think we just held what we have for the current year, absent any other information.
Yeah, I don't recall.
On page 45, we have the civil defense. That's a $3,000 appropriation.
Yeah, and I think in the past that's been maintained by the police department as part of their emergency management. We haven't used it, but I think this may be the year.
It does look like they used it in 21. It just came out of a same department, but different line item.
Yeah.
Which is obviously okay. On page 76 is Historical Commission. That's another small one. It's only $300, and that has not been used. My guess is maybe it's not used because of CPA, but I don't know. Maybe it's a totally different type of historical commission.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't be part of the CPA, but they could have asked money for CPA and if they needed something. Yeah.
Okay.
And my guess is if anything, they probably were open to use it for maybe someone to do their minutes or something like that, because they don't really know what other expenses they would have.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they may have some. So did we talk it looks like Memorial Day, that's Memorial Day. Adam talked about that.
Yeah. The last thing I can think of for you, Scott, would be page 81, and that's the county offset. That's an assessment. Sorry, an assessment, not an offset. That's dictated to us by the county, and we've already confirmed that amount with them.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyone with questions?
Who does town council?
Who does town? You mean who is our town council?
No, who reports on it? There's a budget that went up. If I'm not mistaken, looking at what Sonia sent this morning, seemed to have gone up by 50,000.
Yeah, I was just talking.
Yeah,
about
we just talked about legal.
Yeah, that's
all right.
So,
I'm sorry. Town
legal
council,
retain.
not town council. All right. I'm spelling council wrong.
Yep. Legal counsel. So.
And the unemployment number, we just budget 70,000.
Yes.
And what's the reasoning behind that?
Typically, it's a pretty reasonable figure. This past year was low because we had CARES Act to assist with the unemployment. You can see in 2020, we were slightly over. 2019 was a unicorn year where we didn't have a single unemployment claim. I don't know if that's ever happened. And then, of course, in 21, you can see we, again, low because of CARES Act. So generally, it covers the cost pretty closely. It is a reasonable figure. Even if we're not laying a lot of people off, we are responsible as a reimbursable employer to pay the unemployment costs, well, our share of the unemployment costs for an employee of ours who maybe was laid off of another position. But if we employed them within the last 12 months, we are required to pay for part of those costs, even if we're still employing the person. So it's difficult to, it's really odd. Now, I mean, the upside of that is we don't have to pay unemployment tax, which is great. And in general, usually that's a good gamble. But when a pandemic hits and everyone loses their second jobs, it hurts. Thank goodness for the CARES Act funding, or we would have been, and we've been looking for a lot more than that reserve fund transfer.
And then Scott, Andrew Leverell, North River Collaborative, we don't know what that 15,000 is. Is that transportation or?
No, it's not transportation. They provide a service actually at the school. I think it's a full-on service, right? It's not just.
Trying to remember from past years. I know we've talked about it in the past, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's a collaborative program. It's probably through EEC. Is it like after school for?
No, I think it's for, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's for people with learning needs.
That sounds right.
Okay. And that's not part of the school budget. That's above and that's separate from.
Yeah, I think it's just
was that the program that they have over? They have a program over the Folio for adults, young adults, for like life skills and that kind of thing. Was that North River Collaborative that's doing that?
Yeah, probably, because like in Duxbury, they leased this portion of the town, or they had a portion of, they didn't lease, they had a portion of like the middle school where they did, and they had programs. And here it's on, and it's in the school. They call out in the school what, like they just call it out as total or vocational, other public and private, or total collaborative expenses. And they kind of lump it in there with special summer program, South Shore.
North River Collaborative is an educational collaborative of 12 towns, including 2 regional school districts in Plymouth County that include Abington, Avon, Bridgewater, Raynham, East Bridgewater, Hanover, Holbrook, Rockland, Stoughton, West Bridgewater, and Whitten Hanson.
I'll touch base with Felicia and find out about the budget figure that we have in here, and whether, just to make sure it's not a duplicate. If they're including it in their budget, we don't want to also include it in ours.
I'm pretty sure we've had it separate, though. I think it's sort of like an assessment of like our portion of it, but
like a membership fee or something.
Multi-purpose educational organization that serves as an extension of school districts. They work together to provide high quality, cost-effective educational programs and services predominantly to students with disabilities from our member districts and many surrounding communities.
Well, I'll report back on this next week.
Okay, thank you.
So basic info from the web gets us a little bit of the way there.
Yeah, because the school
Sonia
department
will take care of it.
The school department budgets $802,000 almost for North River Collaborative. So I'm not really sure where the $15,000 shows up. There's 802 in their budget for North River Collaborative.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. We look forward to Sonia's answer.
Yeah, and it seems to go up and down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not consistent.
Mm.
Maybe it's based on number of students.
Yeah. We'll get to the bottom of this.
We appreciate it. Any others? Any other questions?
I don't know if this is the point, but just to let the committee know, after Paul's question a few weeks ago, and then Scott mentioned OPEB last week and again this week, I've done some research on the Society of Actuary website to educate myself a little bit, and I had some questions that I submitted to Sonia and Scott. We decided that to give them time. I didn't submit them till late yesterday, so we'll hear the answers in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll look to either go over those next week, or if, because we have the schools next week, schools usually takes a while. If it's not next week, then we'll do it on the meeting after that.
And I'll definitely be prepared to talk about it next week if time does allow.
We appreciate that, Sonia.
Before we move on too far, I don't know who's planning on going down to the DPW on Saturday. I did get a request that that they start at noontime, if that works for anybody or everybody. It's not a deal breaker, they said, but it was a.
We were scheduled originally at 11:30 for this past Saturday. The ice storm moved that, so I think the difference between 11:30 and 12 is probably not that big a deal for most people, but open to hearing from the rest of the committee to see if that works.
Is there any issue with me having a 4-month-old strapped to my chest?
Absolutely no issue.
Nope.
Very
Bundle
good.
up. It's actually supposed to be a nice day too.
I work to do that.
Okay, I'll let them know that noon it is. And we have to, or I was looking at this and talking to Kelly Johnson, they'd like to get CPA in for a night.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that when we mentioned them with historical, that we haven't had them in, and we usually do have them in. And we don't have a lot of say over their budget, but we do like to see it and talk to them about it and see if there's any sort of help or advice we can give and that type of stuff.
So
I'm going to make a note of that so that we can next year have them on the schedule right away.
I think we have to start earlier next year.
We will. We'll have to.
Do you want to do them on March 2nd?
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Now, and at this time, I'll try. My plan is to have the draft, a somewhat of a draft warrant out on Monday, and the timeline was for them to close the warrant on Monday. So I don't know that there'd be anything stopping us. There's just going to be a lot of placeholders in there. And, you know, obviously for CPA, for capital and stuff like that. But so on next Wednesday, I'll give you guys, but you know, prior to the meeting, I'll get you a copy of that draft also, so you can see what the articles are.
Sounds good.
And we'll have them up and posted too.
And Matt, I apologize. I apologize if I missed it, but for next week, do we have the school budget already? Paul just quoted from it. Was that circulated? I might have missed that email.
I don't believe we have that yet. No.
Okay.
I just pulled it off this website.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I think they were, Sonia, were they meeting Tuesday night?
Yeah, they met last night. Or no, I'm sorry, this coming Tuesday. So they'll meet with the school committee the night before they meet with the finance committee. So the initial budget has been circulated. If you don't have a copy, Andrew, let me know, and I can just shoot it out again as an email.
But didn't they already? I thought on the 4th they approved it. The school committee meeting that I saw, I watched. They approved it. So are they going back and do they do revisions to it?
just like us. I mean, they can make revisions to it. At some point, I just don't think they can make it any higher.
Right.
But they certainly can work with us, and if we identify any areas where we can reduce or save, that they can still do that.
So I guess I'm not familiar with like, so so do they rescind the vote of the 4th and then revote?
I don't know what their process is.
Yeah, I think they're voting the recommendations at this point more than they are setting the budget because the allocation still hasn't been finalized. So once the allocation is finalized, then they would be able to officially vote and set their budget of what they expect it to be. And then once it's finally appropriated out town meeting, then what they voted would be considered the budget.
And what do you mean with allocation?
So they're a town department like any other town. I mean, they operate differently than other town departments, but they still fall under the town umbrella. And so the town has the overall general fund dollars, and then how much gets allocated to each department is a cooperative endeavor.
So is that a number then that the town has provided to the school department? Do they have that?
Very closely with the school department to come to an agreement so that the town is able to meet their needs. The school department is also able to meet their needs. So it goes back and forth, and it hasn't been officially set yet.
Okay. But technically they could, I mean, the town only approves the total number, correct?
Correct.
Can I just ask, as far as, because it's such a large number, when it comes to health insurance and retirement, if we looked at the departments to get truly what the costs are for each department, I mean, 17% of our budget is in retirement and health insurance. Is there any way to break out, and maybe it's just not something that we do, municipal governments do, but it's like to allocate like what the true cost of health insurance retirement is to the school department, to the fire department, to the police, to these others, to actually true. Because if you look at what's the foundational budget for the school department, without having that allocation, you don't know what the true cost of the schools are to the town.
We don't do it for all departments, but we do that with the school department annually for their end of year school report that they're required to file with the state. Yes.
Okay, is that something you could provide this, like just to, because if we're looking at it next week, it's, they come in with a number of $28 million.
Mm-hmm.
But if you factor in now health insurance and retirement, that number is what?
Sure. I can provide you with what I give Felicia for the report, but I'll shoot her another email and ask her if she can provide the full report. Because I'm only seeing, my section of what she needs for that.
Okay.
Unless
Thank
you're
you.
just interested in health and retirement. But there's a lot on that report.
Yeah, it's just the health of it's 17% of the town budget. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
It's as much as the fire, police, and DPW.
Yeah.
I mean, it's staggering.
Huge cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as Scott has reported, the health insurance, that's only going up.
Yep.
Yeah. And retirement as well. Right now, our retirement assessment is about 30% of our payroll. So as our payroll goes up, so goes the retirement.
Right. And so goes OPEB.
Well, that's not directly tied to salaries, but the more full-time people we have that are entitled to benefits, yes.
Right. It's going to get us one of these days.
Fingers crossed.
So Paul, not to Joe Rojas. So I definitely understand what you're asking for, but to what end would that? What would that answer for you, and why is that important? And I'm not asking to be critical. I'm just trying to learn what your thought process is.
Well, I'm just trying to understand what is the true cost to the town for each department. Because if you don't factor in 17% of the budget and allocate it across, you don't really know what the true cost is for fire, for police, for the schools. I mean, 17% of our budget. I'm just trying to look at it to say, what is the true cost to run each of these departments? And if you don't have that, I mean, I'm just saying for myself, I'm just interested in that.
Mhm.
If it's something that like nobody cares about, then that's fine. But if it was an easy information, it was easy access, then I'd like to know. It's because, you know, you're looking at a $28 million budget for the schools, you know, because I asked the question, it's like, if you look at what the foundational budget is for the town, and it's like $29-30 million set by the state, they come in with a $28 million budget. Oh, you're below foundational. But no, we are above foundational because of these other costs that are allocated outside, that are presented outside of the school budget. That's what kind of prompted this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just asking because I don't know if there's something I should be thinking about that you are. So, okay, that makes sense though. Because I know in the past we never asked that question. So I just didn't know if I was missing something that we should be focused on.
I've asked that question.
Oh, you have, Chris? Sorry.
Yeah, that's why I think we worry about each person that gets added or pushed over 19 hours, because it has an effect on that number. So I'm all for it. Finding out.
Sounds good.
Anything else there before we continue on to the rest of the agenda?
Well, can I don't know if this is the right time to ask, but with Scott was presenting on the audit, what is the status of the audit? And when will they be signing off?
I don't know, Sonia, have you heard from, I don't,
I'm sorry, say that again.
where's our audit? Is it?
Yeah, when do we get sign off?
Oh, it's just about there. They just sent me the draft reports today.
Clean management letter, no comments?
Honestly, I didn't even get a chance to open the email. I just saw that it came through.
So there was discussion before about the Powers and Sullivan was going to present to the Board of Selectmen. Is that still the plan, or is that a joint meeting, Finance Committee with the Board of Selectmen?
Can be. There's no reason we can't do that. I know we actually have been hoping, and I know we've talked about having a joint meeting in the near future. I think we actually put a date on it. So I don't know if Powers and Sullivan's ready at that point. It would be great to do it. I have no problem with that. I think it'd be a good idea. I don't hear anybody else in your committee seeming excited about it.
Only takes one, Scott.
Apparently you'll be the liaison on that.
Well, I'm okay if the Finance Committee isn't there, but I think they should be presenting to the Board of Selectmen. I mean, I'm not saying the Finance Committee needs to be there, but it's like something of that magnitude, finishing the audit, having a management letter, and then it's just left with, the town manager. I don't think is really fair.
Well, I don't know that that's been the past practice here, though. I know it was what we did last year, but I would like to think that that's not how they've always done it. I know the whole time I was on board in Whitman, they always did a presentation to us at the Selectmen's, and I would anticipate they would do it here also.
Yeah, it just seems like it's good governance.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
But if the Finance Committee doesn't want to be there, that's fine with me too. I don't need another meeting.
Well, I'll put the invitation out. You can do with it as you want.
Yep. No, that'll be good to have at least the invitation. So.
In the YouTube video.
Yep. All right. We ready to move on to liaison reports? See heads nodding, so I will move on. I know we have a liaison report that was very well written up by Daniel. Switching over to that right now. Paul and Daniel from the school committee. Daniel, do you want to take the lead on giving this report?
Sure, I can do that. So it was a little bit of a mix between Paul's meeting back in October, and then he and I went over to the Frollo on Monday. And so we see here, number one, one of the points that Paul brought in from October was the focus of the district, and then also the increase of English learners to the population. When you compare it to 10 years ago, it's
staggering.
Yeah, it's pretty dramatic. And we look down to number two there, and a lot of these points are going to be brought up by them next week, but laptops are a big issue. The students in grades 7 through 12 automatically get them, but with the pandemic and the money that came in for that, they were able to purchase laptops for the 5th and 6th, reaching 5 and 6 years old. Well, okay, yeah, 5th and 6th graders. Yep. Just late guy.
Those of us who were on the committee at the time that the school was being built and the laptops were originally being purchased, definitely spoke to the schools at that time about making sure that there was a plan to replace eventually, because laptops don't last forever. So they're definitely been looking at that at least for the last 5, 6, 7 years. So
yeah, and I think yearly they've been putting it in as a request. It's been top of mind for them, and it's really coming to a head, as they'll talk about. They wanted to point out that the federal funds that they're not using for operational needs, which is important because there's no certainty that we'll continue to get that. And then with number 4 there, the increase in ELS is one of their big focuses that we'll see next week too, because they want to make sure that they're providing support for the needs there without taking away from other aspects of the school. And then lastly, and Paul kind of brought up already, number 5. So we determined that a large part of their budget is actually supplied by Chapter 70 funds.
Yep.
Which at first glance, it didn't appear that way. And so it actually probably took us about 45 minutes in conversation and going through their presentation to determine, like, oh, wait a second, a big portion of this is actually already provided. So what aspect of it are we looking at from the town? And that prompted a conversation between myself and Paul about, what other departments are there that have funds like this that we haven't really, parsed out well enough for the finance committee to understand, what's being funded and what are we actually looking at as far as town budget and town contribution. So I thought it was important to point out here with the committee, and maybe we can look at those departments that have already come through on paper to see how that lays out, and then in future meetings that we have upcoming, at least have a conversation around if there are any funds that are, or any portion of their budget that's already being covered by some way in some way. So, yeah, and that's our liaison report. And I hope you guys appreciate the naval correspondence format.
I thought the format was great.
Yeah.
And you used the logo for the town that Scott has put on the new template for the agendas, which is part of the previously mentioned document and website upgrading that we've been doing. So ties right back into budget discussions from tonight.
It's all looking good.
Matt, I've got a question. Paul Haggerty.
I'm sorry, Paul, you're out of questions for the night.
Oh, wouldn't be the first time.
Go right ahead.
But just I guess for Scott and Sonia, so if we look at like the Chapter 70 funding for this year, it's going up like $2 million. So how does the town look at that? Like, so it goes from $10 million to $12 million. And as for Chapter 70, do we look at like, oh, well, the town doesn't have to contribute as much? How do we assess that when it comes to the allocation?
We have different conversations on it, but I mean, there is a certain percentage of that we don't necessarily think that 100% of it goes to the school because of the shared expenses or the expenses that are on the town side that we're covering. So sometimes I think a 60-40 is the way you might look at it, or 70-30, something to that effect. But there is expenses associated with that if they're using that to hire more people, for example, then there's expenses to that. So that we would expect it to come out of that Chapter 70 money.
Because the town's carrying some of the school department's expenses on their books versus what's showing in their budget.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And I will say though, it is a collaborative effort there. This administration, the school administration, is amazing to work with and transparent, and they want the town to succeed as well as the school to succeed. So that's not always the case in every town. So I'm very pleased with the working relationship we have with them and the dialogue that we have on things like this with them.
Yeah, and I can say, Dan, you can chime in too. It's like when you meet with them, like they're very honest, all up front. They'll whatever they can provide to you. I mean, Felicia will run into her office to come back with, let me get this right for you. So I thought they were great to work with.
Yeah, agreed.
Any other liaison reports? Just a quick note, because the document popped up. This is the latest cover sheet for the revised budget. Scott and Sonia, how we doing there?
So we continue to make revisions through, we're going through things and kind of starting with low-hanging fruit and getting more into the weeds as required. The main things that we adjusted here was all non-union salary requests were brought to a uniform 2%. We are cognizant of the fact that we have so many union contracts that are still outstanding. So we need to make sure that we do have a balance here to account for any increases that are negotiated. But we also increased our town insurance or health insurance, line item, knowing that the police department has significant needs to fill some positions. We know that the school department is looking to hire as well. So we want to make sure that we're able to cover the full cost of those full-time employees should they all take a family health plan. It's $22,000 each. So we have to make sure that we can cover all of that and have some wiggle room if an existing employee decides they want to start taking the town's insurance. Those are really the main things that we adjusted in the budget to bring us to this figure. So I think we'll still have some work to do once we get further into negotiations. But this is where we stand today.
All right.
It's far better picture than we were.
Yep. And we were looking at before state aid numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's another thing to mention. I think Andrew was going to mention it, but we did certify our free cash for the year.
Okay.
Yes.
Sonia, what was it, 1.7?
No, it was just shy of 1.2.
1.2.
Scott was very optimistic.
1.2 is far better than last year.
1.2 is very good compared to where we were.
Yeah.
So
and it's pretty in line
take
with
that.
where we've been the last few years, notwithstanding last year.
Yep. Chris, I think you were gonna.
Yeah, and to Daniel's point, every revenue item is on this front sheet, correct?
These are the main ones. We don't budget every single possible revenue. And the reason we don't do that is to be conservative. And the state has a prescribed form that we have to fill out every year on our tax rate recap. to show them what we're budgeting for our revenues. And this is pretty much what they have us budget. So we're following the state's guidelines, and it allows us to be conservative because when we do collect other items, it just helps with our fund balance, our free cash, and our ability to meet our obligations.
But those tend to be smaller than what we see here.
They're usually smaller or very unpredictable. So yeah, you can see Chapter 70 really, I mean, that's the main one that's going for very specific purposes. And those veteran benefits, those are reimbursements for funds that are going out to veterans. So there's really not a whole lot that's dedicated for specific department. Unless you want to count all of the taxes and motor vehicle, my department is bringing in millions and millions and millions of dollars.
There you go.
Good work, Sonia.
Thank you.
And Andrew Leverell, just to clarify, so free cash is just our unexpended reserves from the prior year. It's not our stabilization fund, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Free cash, we at town meeting, we will determine what we do with the money that has been certified in free cash.
Which could include moving it to.
Which could include moving to stabilization, OPEB, various other, using it for capital, using it to cover snow and ice removal, all kinds of.
There might be a bit of need there this year.
Things.
And what is our?
Let's hope there's not much more left in that.
I know.
Knocking on wood.
What was the stabilization at again? It was like 5 or 6 million.
No, I don't know
something?
that it's like 3.2. Yeah.
Okay.
You're right, Matt. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
But that's still a very healthy stabilization amount for a budget our size.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else with comments or questions there? No, I got us a little off track on our agenda, but correspondence, we have not been checking the mailbox because we have not been in person. Review of minutes, we do have minutes to review. Let me switch my share.
So while you switch that, Matt, is there a plan to move back to in person from?
So I was actually going to bring that up at the end, but we can talk about that now. As things seem to be settling down, and I know that there are other meetings that are being held at Town Hall in either recent weeks or the coming weeks, I wanted to put out to the committee what your appetite was for coming back to in-person meetings. I know we do have some people with health concerns. We want to be sort of respectful and cautious for their sake. But it seems like we're getting back into a more tenable scenario to come back to in-person meetings.
So I'm on board if everybody else is.
Yeah, I support it. I mean, I found out Paul is way taller than I thought he was.
All right. I think for the sake of still being cold and flu season, I think next week let's stay on Zoom, and then after the February vacation break week for March 2nd, I think, why don't we plan to come back to in-person then? Does that sound good?
Great.
All right, and we have minutes that were provided by our recording secretary, Deb Libby, who is watching the meetings and recording minutes for us. We appreciate the work that she's doing. Does anyone have any comments, questions, things to add, or motions regarding the minutes?
Matt, Paul Haggerty.
Hey, Paul.
Just on the right there at this time, then there's the reference that says in Board of Health, it was Board of Selectmen.
Sorry, where?
So it says where it says the third sentence there, Mr. Lambiase stated the Finance Committee Board of Health should be the departments to review this issue. I thought it was the Board of Selectmen. I don't remember it being the Board of Health.
Right here.
And then, because I know down below where it says Mr. Hague expressed his view that I was talking about the Board of Selectmen as our elected officials.
Okay.
I know I never said anything about the Board of Health. And
I think I might have mentioned all three though.
Yeah, I think Scott mentioned,
mentioned
all three because waste does
Okay.
fall under the Board of Health.
Okay, then we need to have the Board of Selectmen in there also.
Yeah.
Because I thought I remember them being in there.
Yep, absolutely they were.
Yep.
But my view was expressed as the Board of Health, the Board of Selectmen, not
Selectmen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paul, if you want to do a quick, if you want to amend, because I know I sent that out to, or that this report of minutes got sent out to everyone. If you want to amend it,
Okay.
and email that back to everyone, we can vote on it next week with the amendments in it.
Okay. All right. But so
Can
on
I
that,
say too,
Sorry.
the date on here says 2/2/2002.
Oh,
That might need to be changed.
yeah, that was definitely not when. Okay, so the top date says
The top is
22,
fine.
but
The
page
second
2's
page.
header,
Yeah.
and that one's 22. Yeah, that's the only one that's wrong.
And I mean, if you want to just do it tonight, I think, I mean, for the purposes of just.
Oh, that's true. We can.
You can just say what you want to amend it to be, and then we can vote on the, yeah.
So in here, we'll add Finance Committee, Board of Selectmen, and Board of, if I could spell, Selectmen and Board of Health.
and then down below where it says express his view that the board,
Yep.
it's not Board of Selectmen. Yeah.
Yep, I'll switch that to BOS. And should
Thank
be
you.
able to handle that. There you go.
Thank you.
All right, so if we are looking to approve them, it would be to approve as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the, what was it, the February 2nd, 2022 meeting minutes as amended.
That's a motion
second.
from Andrew,
second.
seconded by Joe. Is there any further discussion on the minutes from February 2nd, 2022? Without any further discussion, I'll take a roll call vote on them. Chris,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Joe.
Sustain.
Oh, that's right. Yep. Abstaining. Daniel,
Abstain.
Aye.
Russ,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
and Greg.
I'm going to give it an I, but I think Joe just thought he was a judge.
Yeah, I know.
Sustained.
I chuckled as soon as I said it. I was like, oh, God.
And I will vote aye as well. So the minutes are approved with one abstention. And that's all we have for minutes for tonight.
Matt, can I just,
Yes.
Paul Haggerty, I just want to make a clarification last week because I think I came across and I was questioning Scott as far as him discussing the trash issue with the Board of Selectmen. And I think at one point I said, you currently do that. So I actually went back and looked at the minutes and the agendas. And, you know, Scott has discussed this with the board as far as the budget goes. On October 12th, he mentioned they're working on the budget. November 22nd, again mentioned working on the budget. He even mentioned in November how on February 22nd, we were going to have a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. And then on December 13th, he mentioned about the working. And then if I could just read the minutes from there, he said it's from Scott, the budget process has started. The first draft is off by $2 million. Trash is a big part of the problem, but $1.4 million annually. Looking at healthcare costs, which are growing at a rate higher than revenue. So, I apologize to Scott if I came across those questions, but you did, because I don't remember seeing that, but you absolutely did put out to it. And so I give Scott credit for it, because he even mentioned in the meeting about this is something we need to be talking about over the next couple of months. Like, he put it out there. And so kudos to you, Scott, for doing that. I appreciate that. But the one thing I do want to emphasize is, like, the reaction of the Board of Selectmen, zippo, nothing. Didn't ask them a question, nothing. And it's like, we're 2 months out from here now, and nothing's happened on their side. So whatever we can do for them to get it on the agenda, for them to talk about it, shouldn't just be the Finance Committee talking about this stuff or the Board of Health. It's like, to me, still like to understand what the role of the Board of Selectmen is as far as this budget process. But Scott did, and I apologize if I came across as questioning. I hadn't seen it before. But I do think we need to keep this out in front of us if there's a plan for how we're going to handle trash in the future. But to me, it's on the Board of Selectmen to deal with. They've done nothing with it so far. And that's the comment from Paul Haggerty, not representing the Finance Committee. So
appreciate the clarification.
Yes.
Yeah. No, and to be quite honest, I think it led to some really good, healthy discussion. So I'm glad you did, bring it up, or that I brought it up, or that we've been talking about it, because that's the only way we're going to resolve it. Is we got to keep talking about it and got to keep thinking about it until we make and something's got to be done.
Yeah, we can get on somebody's agenda to discuss it.
I'm going to bring it up Monday night again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt, for the time. Appreciate it. I yield my time to the Judge Joe.
Judge Joe. All right. Well, that is the end of our agenda for tonight. Our next meeting is next Wednesday, February 16th. We have the school department scheduled to be with us, as we have mentioned. Is there any other comments, questions, queries, motions?
A motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion to adjourn from Joe and a second from Andrew, just edging Russ for that second. I'll do a quick roll call there. Chris?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Daniel?
Aye.
Russ?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
And Greg?
Overruled. Aye.
I vote aye as well. We are adjourned. We will see you again next week on Zoom once again, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you, everyone.